Welcome to Shortcuts with Paul deMarco, and today we are delving a little bit deeper into some of your rhythm playing, trying to get the chords right and trying to expand on that. That was a little bit of a demonstration at the beginning there of things that you can do to make your chord playing a little bit more interesting, and we're going to cover those through this week's lesson. So let's get to it. Now, we've done some stuff in previous episodes to do with your chords, trying to expand those. So go back and just check over that. We also did an episode on strumming to try and improve your playing there. Again, go back and just check that out because what we're going to do today will just help that. But today we're going to talk about chord embellishments. What that means is instead of just strumming a straight chord and just trying to put a strumming pattern to it, we're going to try and find some different things that we can do. A man for me who is brilliant is Jimi Hendrix. What was great about Hendrix was he was always the single guitar player in the band, and you may be in that situation yourself, or maybe in the future. But he was never one to just play rhythm or just play lead. So being the only guitarist, he had to try and find a way of playing both, and that's exactly what he did. He would be playing chords, but he would be doing lots of different things to try and make it more interesting for himself and also for his listeners as well. So if you want to study somebody, go and check out Jimi Hendrix if you haven't already, and just listen to the way that he puts his chords together and what he does over those chords. Now, the first thing that we're going to try is an alternating bass note. Okay, we could call this a walking bass, which some people call it. Now what we do is we'll do it on the chord of C, just an open C major chord, and we're going to take the root note of C. Remember we talked about that when we were looking at our chords, the root note, the lowest note that you're going to play, and then another note in the scale, which is the fifth, which in this case is a G, which is immediately below on the bottom string. So there's your C, and then we're going to play a G. Okay, now this is a very country kind of thing to do, a trad country thing to do, but let's take it really simple. We're going to do a bass, strum, and then we're going to alternate to the G, bass, strum. Okay, so we're going to go. And we can experiment with strumming patterns. We might go, which is more of a Dylan perhaps type thing to do. We could make it a bit more staccato. And we can do it on different chords as well. Let's take an A chord, for example. Now the root note of our A chord is the A string, and the fifth of that is immediately below, just like it was on the C, which is an E, so we might go. So that's something that we can do. Now you want to watch out on chords where you're already on the root note. Okay, because for example, if we're playing a G, we're already on the root note. Now to do a walking bass line on that, you have a choice. You could play the third, which is this note here. We could go. But that doesn't always work brilliantly, so you might want to try something slightly different with that. And maybe you'd want to find out where the fifth is. Well, in this case, the fifth is always one string up, 2 frets forward. Not like the octave, which is 2 up, 2 forward. The fifth is 1 string up and 2 frets forward. Okay? So you'd find out that your fifth in this case is a D note. You'll know that from your tuning. So maybe we could do this instead. So there's some ideas of way that you can just make that first thing just very simple. So that's alternating a root note or a walking bass note with the chord that you're playing. Now the next thing you might want to try is just by trying to move notes of the chord, or fingers rather, moving your fingers to create some hammer-ons and pull-offs. Let's get back on the C chord for example. Now we got our root note, then we got our second finger is playing the major third, and then our first finger is playing the octave octave of that C note. So what we can do is, as we're playing, we can take these two, either of these two fingers, on or off, and we can use hammer-ons and pull-offs, or we can just pick them, just to create some interesting sound. So for example, if your chord pattern, or if your strum pattern was going like this, how about we bring that second finger on and off? So we might go, or maybe we might do it with the first finger. We might go, or perhaps we'll make it a hammer on that second finger. So we might go, or on the first finger, or maybe a pull off. So there's lots we can do with that. Also, one thing that we can include in this is perhaps if we're playing some like pentatonic notes. Let's take G for example, and this is something you'd see in Guns N' Roses' Paradise City, where we've got a G chord, but also the G major pentatonic. Now we haven't discussed major pentatonics yet, but let's just think of this as an E minor open pentatonic. And I'll just mention the reason they're connected is because E minor is the relative minor of G. So actually they have the same notes in their scale. It's just that we think about it differently, because one is from E it's a minor, and from G it's a major, the way we order the notes. But anyway, we'll come on to that another time. But what you need to know for now is around that G chord, you've got your pentatonic. So we can do some really cool things with that. For example, we might go, you could spend hours just making up things with that. So that's a really good one for you to try. So give that a go. That's a lot of fun. Okay, so another great thing that you can do, which I find really interesting, you may have seen it in some of the chord tabs that you've been looking at, and you may see something called slash chords or alternate root chords. What that means is you've taken a chord, let's say D, and maybe it's a D slash F sharp. So you've got a D chord, and what you've done is you've altered the root note of that chord, and you're playing an F sharp, which in this case I'm going to play with my thumb. That's something you might want to try with. Okay, now just to illustrate how that works, I've got this little change which I like, where I play a D chord, and then I'm going to play a D slash F sharp, which is a D with an F sharp root, and then I'm going to play a G slash D, although because I'm leaving this finger, I'm actually creating a D sus2 on the top. The top string is going to be open. But for now, just get used to the sound of it. Here's how it would go, and I really like this sound. So we get. So that's great. So that's what we'd call slash chords. You can do that with lots of chords where we might take an A and we might drop an A flat on there, or G sharp, down to a G, to an F sharp, which actually creates an F sharp minor 7. There. We can actually play that with an A sus2 chord, which is basically the A chord with your third finger removed, so you got that open, to the G, and then down to an E chord, which you'll know from Handbags and Glad Rags or Champagne Supernova. And what you're doing is really you're pedaling the chord, so the chord itself becomes a pedal, and you're descending that root note. Now, to say your thumb coming over the top is really useful here. That's another Hendrix thing. So give that a try. So you can do that, just slash chords, alternate that root, change that root, try it on all sorts of chords. You might want to try a G, and you think, what would G sound like with an F in the root? You know, just be experimental with it and see what you can find. Now here's one I like, which is where you take a chord and you slide it. Now we did a little bit of this on our chords episode, where we were taking a chord and we were moving it up and down the neck. We did it with an E, we did it with an A, and you can move that chord up and down the neck a little bit. Here's a couple of examples I really like. Sometimes when I'm playing a C, and the chord sequence goes to a D, rather than go to the D normal open chord, I may slide this C chord up 2 frets to the D position, get this gorgeous sounding chord. So what we'd have is, we'd have something like this. Beautiful, isn't it? Now, one place I really like this is at the end of Hendrix's Little Wing intro. He plays this G chord and he goes. So he takes the chord, slides it up to an A and back, and then down to an F. Great, really good. Brilliant. And then one other place which I particularly like this is the excellent Extreme. They did a song called Wholehearted, where they played a D chord and they would slide it up. Nuno, he'd play. Brilliant, just that little intro, D chord, sliding it up. So anywhere you can slide up a chord, give that a try. That can be really fun to do. And the final idea from our Power 5 is by taking a power chord, which we have discussed in an episode, but rather than just sticking to the chords of that power chord, let's take C for example, making the top strings open. So we play the notes of a power chord, the root, the fifth, and the octave, but then the top 2 strings are open. Now this is great. If you're playing a song that has a C chord in it, okay, that's good. But maybe you're fed up of playing that. How about something like this? Brilliant chord. And you can just move that around all the other chords. Let's do it as an E. Let's do it as a G. And let's do it as an F. Do it as a D. A B. There's some seriously good chords here. So we might do something like this. Brilliant. Again, you could do that for ages, and you can do that on the low string as well. So if you take a full major chord, if you like a G chord, but leave the top two strings open, you'll hear this a lot in Coldplay songs. So there we have it. There's our Power 5 chord embellishment. So what did we have first? Well, first we had alternating the bass note, taking the root and playing the fifth and walking it like that. That was the first one. Secondly, we were moving our fingers by playing hammer-ons and pull-offs, or just taking our fingers on and off in other places of the chord that sounded good. And then thirdly, we altered the root note. So we took a chord, we played a different root note and created what we may call a slash chord, which can make it really interesting sounding. Fourth, we were sliding the chords about. We took a C chord, we slid it up to a D. We took a D chord, we were sliding it up the neck. That can be a really interesting way of adding some excitement to your playing. And then finally, just then, the fifth way, we took a power chord and we left the top two strings, the highest two strings open, and then moved that chord up and down that string just to create some interest with it. So I hope you enjoyed that. They're just some different ideas so that you can create some interest when you're writing or when you're playing live, to make it interesting for you, but also makes it more interesting for the audience as well. And you end up stumbling across things which can really enhance your playing. So practice these things slowly, and you'll develop fast. And just keep working on these ideas to make your playing interesting, and your audience will enjoy it far more. So until next time on Shortcuts, enjoy your guitar playing and keep creative.